Hello, welcome back to The Forgetful Scholar, and this week we're going to chat about books. One book this week. I know, I don't want to hear it, okay? This week has been crazy and I only had one time to finish one book. And no, I totally did not spend half of my free time playing Water Park Simulator. I don't know what you're talking about. That's a vicious lie. So anyway, one book. And it's the Grimoire Grammar School Parent-Teacher Association by Caitlin Rozakis. And this is, I know you guys seen this book before because I've mentioned how beautiful it is and how pretty I think it is. Now, this is satire fantasy or satire urban fantasy, because I think if I say fantasy, you think more dragons and castles, and urban fantasy you would think more werewolves and fae, and that's what this is. It was published 2025, so I don't want to go into great deal because there's a little bit of a mystery sprinkled in, so I'm going to try to do that as spoiler free as I can. And it's 361 pages and it was 4.5 stars. So I had a great time reading this. And like, it is satire, so humor can be subjective. I didn't think it was like laugh out loud funny, but I found the whole thing this just a blanket of amusement while I read it. Like, it was phenomenal. So we're in the mom's POV. So this is Vivian's POV. We're in her POV the whole book. And her and her husband Daniel are mundanes or normal humans living their normal human life, had no idea that the paranormal existed until their 5-year-old ADHD daughter Aria got viciously attacked and turned into a werewolf. And then all of a sudden, guess what? The things that you thought were just stories and urban legends are real. They end up in this sort of protected kind of Halloween town. It made me think of Halloween Town at first. If you know, you know, and if you know, you're very cool. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Halloween Town, surrounded by all these other magical beings. And it's interesting the reaction they get right off the bat, because okay, so Aria's a werewolf, and then they're kind of looking at Daniel and her weird because they're mundanes. And you kind of get the feeling that mundanes having a child that's supernatural and still remaining to be that child's parent and involved in life is apparently such a beyond crazy concept for them, like the people of the town. So that was interesting. The werewolf pack was interesting too. So in the beginning, you kind of, you realize there's a little tiny bit of a mystery surrounding Aria being turned. It's not so much a mystery, but like a really traumatic event for Vivian, because she was there when Aria was turned, so she doesn't want to talk about it. There's a lot of stuff that she doesn't want to talk about, but we're in her POV, so even though she's not talking about it, she's thinking about it. And the werewolf pack, I actually really liked. I liked that the matriarch, the grandmother, was no nonsense, tough cookie. And I loved the moment when cause she too is surprised that Vivian and Daniel aren't giving their child up for adoption for the pack. And because we're in Vivian's head, right? So we don't really know, but you kind of get the sense as the more they get to know the wolf pack, the more the head of the wolf pack like respects Vivian, even though Vivian, no clue. And that could have just been me like adding that in, but I usually don't do that when I read a book, you know? So I think it might have been subtext in the prose themselves. And let me just say, this writer, phenomenal. Vivian is an anxious ball of anxiety, and boy, does the writer make you feel anxious. And I'm not an anxious person. I'm not. But man, reading this book, I was like so full of anxiety for Vivian. I was in that with her. Like, it was insane. I was like, damn. At one point I was like, damn, this writer's really good. And we have read this writer before. She is the author of Dreadful, which is also a satirical fantasy, and that is like dragons and towers fantasy, right? Enjoyed that as well. The only reason this is at 5 stars, because like 5 stars is like I would recommend it for someone to get into the genre. Also, I would reread it, and I'm not sure if I would reread this again, just because literally reading it, I was anxious along with Vivian the whole time. And I was like, well, this is uncomfortable. I feel so bad for people who have generalized anxiety because this is the worst. Also, Vivian is a people pleaser, and thankfully that is one personality issue that I don't have, thank goodness. But man, did it make me feel bad for people who have the people pleaser personality. I am so sorry. Read this, let me know if it is accurate, and if it is, oh my god, I'm so sorry. Holy moly, the things you guys, the mental gymnastics you guys do, man, that sucks. I did think it was phenomenal and realistic that issues in Vivian's childhood with her parents and issues in Daniel's childhood with his parents kind of flavored how they approached Arya, in the sense that they wanted Arya to have better, you know? So Vivian's parents are not in Arya's life. Vivian makes it very clear that they are not involved, that they don't want them anywhere near Arya. Apparently they said something to Arya, and Arya is mixed race, so I can only imagine. And I looked and I checked back to see if it mentions like what they said to Arya exactly, but it's kind of hinted at, it's never full out stated. So I'm like, okay. And if I missed it the second go around, let me know. But I'm pretty sure I didn't. I usually don't miss stuff like that, but who knows? This week has been a bad brain week, so who knows? Anyway, so it was interesting. So like Vivian went at it almost unwillingly, kind of became her mother in a sense, while also like internally stating how much she hated that about her mother. So that was interesting. And Daniel is half Japanese, but he doesn't know his Japanese father, so the mother would make him go to Japanese school after school, and he was apparently like bullied there, and he didn't want Arya to go with the pack after school because he didn't want her to be, so they came at it from like a good place. But it was so interesting to see that, you know, their issues in childhood, they like unwillingly continued to do that, even though they were trying to do better by Arya. It was really fascinating, and I felt like it was really realistic. But that turns back to the point I was making with the pack. The more you're with them, the more you like them. And when the head of the pack realizes, you know, Arya doesn't have her grandparents in her life because either passed on or because they're horrible, the pack basically adopts Daniel and Vivian as well. And it was definitely, the pack kind of adopting them was a great sort of help for Vivian, who through the story you could feel her isolation, you know. And it's a story as old as time, right? Like married couple, mom has baby, mom stays home with the baby until, you know, the child's old enough, and then she was planning to go back to work. But then, you know, something happened and the child has special needs, and the mom has to stay home become a full-time homemaker, and that is a job you don't get to shut off. And it becomes her identity, and she's fighting against that the whole way, but it's still happening. So that was sort of a sweet moment when the pack was like, well, Arya's not the only one part of the pack now, you know. And that was sweet. That was sweet. I liked it. Again, like I was saying, I like, okay, for the first half of this book, I was like, oh, this is good. I'm enjoying myself. This is definitely a 3 stars, you know. And then boom, in the middle, there's like a mystery that ramped up. And it's not a murder mystery, but there's a mystery that ramped up that like before the pages before, there's like trickling of it, and then it really ramps up. And I was like, oh, I'm in this. I didn't want to put the book down until I finished. I had to, because, you know, sleep apparently is something humans need. I don't know. Freaking weird, right? So after that, I was like, oh, I want to know what happened. Oh my gosh. And there's drama within the marriage as well that happens around that point that I'm like, I hope this doesn't. Oh my gosh, I hope they make it. I hope everything's okay. Oh my gosh. And the thing with that is, because like arguments happen, right? Especially in a marriage, arguments happen. And I did, wow, because we're in Vivian's point of view. So she really puts most of the blame on herself, right? And Daniel is a good guy, right? And he's like, no, I'm mad at you, but also I should have done this too. You're not, it takes two to tango kind of person. So I'm like, oh, good, Daniel. You're not going to be like just wagging a finger at her and blaming her, right? So that's good, because Vivian blames herself for Arya being turned into a werewolf. She blames herself for Arya not being able to control the shift. She blames herself for Arya's little friends bullying her. Like, she blames herself for everything. And when I was reading this book, I realized as I got older, I've got simultaneously more patience and less tolerance for bullshit. And I was like, well, that's an interesting combination. Because if I was in this book, oh man, I would be like smacking bitches left and right. But also, violence, yay. So, no, violence in real life is not okay. I would probably just verbally decimate, especially these two moms. And you know exactly what I mean when I'm like, these two, like the wine mom that takes it a little too far, and the beige mom, because these were and if you're a beige mom, stop it. Just stop. What am I talking about? You are, I should say it's more the stereotypical beige mom / mean girl and wine mom / mean girl, if that makes more sense. I think that's a little less insulting than what I just said. Anyway, because she makes these friends, and off the bat I was like, no. Again, it's the writing, because the writing was so subtle. The reader was like, oh, red flag, these are not your people, these are not your friends, these will not be good friends. But like, she so did not want her daughter to be isolated and lonely. Like, you could tell that Vivian didn't have friends growing up and was isolated and lonely, and she was trying her best not to let that happen. Arya, I get it. I do. I understand. And you're in her head, so obviously you're sympathetic to Vivian. But some of the things I was like, girl, if I was there, if I was your friend, holy moly, especially one part where those two moms' daughters like bully Arya, and Arya thinks they're friends. And I'm like, oh, sweetheart, you know what I mean? I was happy when Vivian does make friends with like the band camp version. Like, if those were the popular mean girls, then these were like the band camp nerds. And I was like, yes, those are the best, most interesting, most fun. Yes. And they were very sweet. There was one friend she makes through the beginning to the end, Steve. He's a stay-at-home dad, and he is great. He's friends with Vivian, he's friends with Daniel, and he's like a real true blue friend. But he's a stay-at-home dad, and he has a daughter and a son, twins, who are the same age as Arya, so 5-year-old twins. Oh. So like, you don't see him a lot because 5-year-old twins. Turns out like because there's a shadow council that I guess is like their government body, and he used to work for them, but he's retired. And you kind of get the sense that he had to do a lot. He saw a lot of bad things, and he chose to not really return because he didn't want to do those bad things anymore. And is kind of like hyper focused on his garden and bringing life. Like, there's little hints to things, and you're like, oh, Steve saw some shit, like, okay. And maybe that could be projecting, because I have a lot of friends who are veterans, so I kind of saw the same patterns with them. I don't know. But Steve was great. She finally makes good friends, but see, trying to integrate herself in the community, because her and Daniel are the only mundanes, is to join the Parent-Teacher Association. And I'm like, girl, no one wants to join that. Like, it was a good reason for her. I understood why she joined that nightmare fuel. I get it. But like, I was like, the only people that are really into the Parent-Teacher Association, they tend to be the ones that are causing all the other people on the Parent-Teacher Association like ulcers. You know what I mean? Like, there's a certain type of person that's like, wants to be just... I'm insulting people left and right, but you know what I'm talking about, right? There's that one person that, because they're the head of the parent-teacher association, they think they're like literally a queen or king. Like, this is not medieval times, and I am not a serf, and you're not my liege lord. Like, what is happening? This is why I said, like, have more patience, but less tolerance for bullshit. The thing she like lets go, like, oh, I have to be the bigger person. I was like, no, be petty. Petty's fun. Come to the petty side. We have fun here. Let's set fires, you know, stop, come on. Don't really set fires. I'm just saying, this is a fictional book, so I'm just saying. And there's a thing with the whole prophecy, and the prophecy kind of got turned on its head in a really fun way. And I should have expected this because this author in Dreadful, her previous book, really put like typical fantasy tropes on their head. So I should have saw this coming, but I'm happy I didn't. It was really enjoyable what happened with the prophecy and stuff. And at the end of the book, Vivian and Daniel make real true blue friends in this community, and Arya makes real true blue friends, you know, in her age group, which is lovely, right? And Arya is equal parts adorable and exhausting. And I was like, oh yeah, 5-year-old, hyperactive 5-year-old werewolf fire. Yeah, the author, like, just the tone of it was so good, and it felt, underneath all the supernatural stuff, it felt so realistic and so lived experience of the author. And I think the about author, she is married with a young son, so probably was, but like even the arguments, the couple arguments, I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty common. And I like how they weren't one-sided, even though we're in Vivian's point of view, and I think I said this before, it was nice that Daniel recognized what he did wrong as well. And don't get me wrong, when you're reading it, you're like, Vivian, open your mouth and talk to your husband. This is stuff he needs to know. Like, he needs to know about the prophecy and how everyone thinks Arya is the end, like the bringer of end of days. Like, he kind of needs to know this. So you get upset with her, with Daniel, because yeah, the whole time you're in it, you're like, Vivian, talk to him, you know? So that, like, it felt very realistic underneath all of that supernatural stuff. And I think that's what this writer really excels at. And the last point I want to make, which I am finding this, like, adorable, because it's like contemporary paranormal, you know, satire, fantasy, urban, you know, fantasy. Vivian, before she became a mom, was an accountant at like a big firm, like like she handles huge accounts. It kind of sounds like she was like on fast track to become a partner, you know, things like that. And when Arya became a werewolf, they talked about it and they decided she should stay home because Daniel made more money, and Daniel even offered to stay home, you know, so that was really nice. But I love that this is the second like contemporary paranormal book that I read where accounting, like being an accountant, saved the day. Like, what was it, Vampire Plus One? Amelia was an accountant and she saved the day through being an accountant. And I love how Vivian, as an accountant, figures out some really heavy stuff that's going on and like saves the day through math. Like, I freaking love that. I was like, this is phenomenal. I don't know why this trend started, but I love it and I hope it continues because that is the best. So yeah, she does save the day with math. It kind of, I'm not gonna say what news story it reminded me of a couple of years ago, because this is new and oh god, read it, it's so good. But like when you read it, you get what news story I'm talking about. So that probably inspired it, I'm sure. You know, why wouldn't it? So, okay, that's it for me today. I don't want to, but it's time for you to get back to the real world. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye.